Welcome to Tmupta. I'm your host, Marjorie Bates. On today's program, we'll go to a dew line cleanup just outside of Shingle Point, Yukon. We'll talk with Daryl Tang, who is the site engineer for Defence Construction Canada. The distant early warning dew line is the radar sites across the Arctic coastline and was established in the 1950s and is consisted of sites along the 66th parallel from northwestern Alaska to eastern Baffin Island. The dew line was planned, built, and largely funded by the U.S. According to the international agreement, out of 63 sites, 42 were located within the Canadian territory. In the early 1960s, 21 of these sites were decommissioned and became the responsibility of the Department of Indian and Northern Development. The remaining 21 sites continued to be operated by the Department of National Defense until the line formally ceased in 1993. A new radar line, the North Warning System, then replaced it. As the cleanup proceeded, the Hunters and Trappers Committee became concerned about the cleanup.
I heard about this cleanup over the years, but wasn't really too involved. But once I got in hearing about how the cleanup was going and how it was involving the people in the Aklavik, and we started looking into it as to when was this protocol signed by the Inuvialuit of Aklavik, which a lot of people were unaware that a protocol was signed by IRC and the Defense Department. Well, they had meetings in the past, but I don't think that the information as to Shingle Point was one of the designated dumping grounds for the PCB burial, site. And once we found out on that, knowing that Shingle Point was going to be the dumping site, and that's when people started asking, who made that decision? When was this decision made? And by the time we asked these things, this agreement was already a 2-year into its thing, and it was kind of late to back out of it on RRC's side because of their agreement they signed with the Defense Department. Concerns that they have was, again, the unknown facts behind the asbestos, the unknown facts as to PCBs, again, unknown facts meaning what kind of chemical material are we dealing with. No one in a community level had those kinds of answers. When we asked that, no one really had those answers too, so it's kind of a concern. Dumping them in our backyard where everyone during the summer months go down, make their living down there for the whole summer. Is it going to affect their drinking water? Is it going to affect the wildlife that they harvest as to the caribou? The runoff during the springtime, is it going to affect our harvest onto the fish and onto the beluga whale, which everyone goes down on a yearly basis for? So these kinds of concerns were brought forward. How are we as Inuvialuit living in that region for the short-term period of the summer months going to be affected in the long-term burial of these chemicals in our backyards? Well, like I said, they talked about PCB paints, asbestos, and I think where we're concerned from a community level and from the local people here is we don't have the understanding of this whole chemical issue. We know it's there. It's hearing about asbestos and PCB linked to cancer. Are we onto that you know, we're scared of that. I mean, locally, we're scared of our generation. Are we going to be affected, or the following generation? When is it going to leach into our food chain? And again, not knowing the true facts about it, I think that's where our concern is. We want to know all the facts behind it. We know the technology of today. They say, well, you can hook up to the internet and find more facts and stuff like that. This office or the HT's office are not linked to these technology as of today. Then when we get the questions from our locals, what kind of asbestos are we dealing with? We don't have those, and we have to find those research some other place, and to educate the people on these things and be told by the Defense Department that, you know, it's a safe level where you can live, but the amount of burial, is it going to pick up, and later on down the road, are we going to be affected? I think that's the main concern that the people have today. They said that they were going to get information to keep us updated on what is the parts per million, because there was a concern on the cementing in the early days. They used asbestos in them days to make the cement block stronger. And we all know today that, you know, cement blocks are just mixed with the clay and the rock and stuff, unknowing that this was in the cement block. So we asked them to do those kinds of testing and then get those kinds of information to us. We have to be educated on these kinds of a dumping anywhere that's going to happen in our backyard, especially that would affect the traditional lifestyle in our neighborhood, and that's why we're worried about it. You know, we ask government, and we work along with government on co-management things. We worked on the protection of wildlife and protection of our environment, and to see this happen without the local knowledge of the people knowing this is going to happen is a concern, and that's why we're against this kind of a dumping in our backyard, especially a place where it's been traditionally used for over thousands and thousands of years. Our ancestors were there. We still go to there today. You know, does this mean 10 years, 15 years down the road, is that going to be taken away from us? Because today we are asking these questions and trying to stop this contaminants being buried in our backyard. I'd just like to say that I just hope that the people that are working there in the technology world would pass this information on, so we as Native people in Iqaluit living in that Shingle Point area would know the facts behind the danger of these chemicals, the short-term burial things, the long-term things, how it may affect us in the future, because again, we are worried about the future generation. You know, we hold their future in our hands as to, again, tying in traditional way of life.
We'll be right back with more of the Bar 2 cleanup at Shingle Point, Yukon. Welcome back to Tmupta with more of the Douline cleanup. Daryl Tang of Defence Construction Canada talks about the cleanup at Shingle Point, Yukon.
I work for Defence Construction Canada. I'm the site engineer for the Douline cleanup. Main thing here is we're closing off the USAF landfill. It's the old landfill they've been using since the beginning here, and what we're doing is covering it over with a plastic membrane, sealing it off, welding all the joints, and then we're putting 15 feet of fill over top of that. And the design behind that is that in time, over a couple of years, the permafrost will freeze back through that layer of fill, and the old landfill will be permanently frozen. We also have some areas of contaminated soils, mostly with metals, and some with hydrocarbons like diesel fuel, gear oil, that sort of thing. And we're digging those out of the ground, and based on the levels of contamination, some of it, the lower levels get put into a new landfill here, and the things that are contaminated over a certain criteria get put in boxes, and it's sent south to Hay River, and then south again to probably Swan Hills, Alberta, for disposal.
The big boat that came in yesterday and docked down here, was that taking some of that contaminated soil away, or?
No, what he did is he brought some low-level contaminated soil from Comatut Beach, along with some building debris, and that, because of that being a federal park now, we can't leave anything there. So that stuff came here, and we're putting it into our new landfill with our demo. The barrels we empty out into bigger barrels and take that material out of here. We clean the barrels, steam clean them, then we crush them and put them in the landfill when they're clean.
Is that happening right now, or?
Yes.
Do you have people in here checking out the environmental situation, or?
Yeah, I have a group of scientists from Environmental Services from Kingston, from the Royal Military College. And what they've done over the past 2 years, they're the ones that did the original sampling and analysis of the soils to see exactly where the contamination was. Then they mapped it out. The contractor comes in, he'll dig out the area down to the required depth, and then ESG. ESG is the Environmental Services Group out of Kingston, Ontario. And so I have them on site full time. So as soon as we dig out an area, they'll come in and sample this area again, and based on the results from those samples, then we either cover it in if it's clean, or if it's still dirty, we'll dig out the sections that are still contaminated, and then they'll test again, and if it comes up clean, then we cover the whole thing over with gravel. Once we get the 15 feet of fill over top of the landfill, we're seeding it with an Arctic mix of seeds, and then a layer of fiber and grass mats go over top of that, and then in the springtime the new grass grows up, so we hope to have cover over it. Yeah.
Do you know exactly what kind of contamination it was, or?
In the contaminated soils, we have lead, zinc, copper, mainly, those kind of things, and then the hydrocarbons like diesel fuel, gear oil, that type of stuff, grease.
So they were just, there was just big hole dug in there, and all the stuff were just thrown in there and covered over?
Yeah. Yeah. Now we finding it and cleaning it up. There was very little building demolition because this site is an active long-range radar site, and the building train and the accommodations for the Frontec people that do the servicing here was going to stay in operation. So that didn't get tore down. So they'd stay in. And we tore down a few service buildings that they don't use any longer, and they went into the landfill.
Any radars were dismantled?
No, nothing. It stays fully operational here. It's an unmanned site, but it's still operational.
And the Comatut Beach, is that totally dismantled, or?
No, it's a short-range radar site. It's still operational, but they've taken all the buildings away from there because now it's a national park, and we're not leaving anything behind except for the actual radar domes.
When we return to Comatut, we'll talk with an Aklavik elder, Winnie Alanik, who expresses her concerns on how the cleanup was handled. We're back with more of the dew line cleanup at Shingle Point, Yukon.
Well, I was concerned about the cleanup at the dew line. I wasn't bugging about the job, but the cleanup that they were going to try and put on, they want to haul the stuff down to Shingle. That's what I was concerned about, because we have 2 rivers there that we always go through to haul water from Shingle. I thought they might go down to where we drinking water. That's why I was concerned about it. That's why I said to the meeting that why are they putting it there? Why they never bring it down to Khamakak? Nobody living down at Kamakak.
You mean that's where they're hauling it from, Kamakak?
Yeah, they're hauling it from Kamakak to Shingle Point. And every summer we go down to Shingle. Well, we had meeting here, ACC had meeting here in Uvaluit. If anybody got concerned to say something about the things like that, because they were going to work on it down there this summer. That's why we find out that they were going to haul the stuff from down there to Shingle Point.
To be buried at Shingle Point?
Yeah, to bury it at Shingle. No, we never hear nothing about it. We didn't hear nothing about it in the Klavik, see if they're going to have two-line. Well, that time I hardly go to the meetings because I was raising my kids. Now they're old enough to go on their own. I start making more move to find out what's going on. After I worked for COPE, I really opened my eyes to see what should be done after I lived on this country for a long time. Like, since I was growing up, I've been going out foiling down this way all the time. Since I was a little girl, my parents used to take me down. We used to hunt whales at Nekonak first. After that, they used to take us to Shingle. And we stay there in Shingle in the summertime. And when it started getting fall time, we start coming up because we had to get to our camps to try and fish because it started getting colder. Well, when we go down there, they used to feed us fish, whales, ducks, geese, swans, anything that you could find to eat, they feed us with.
And them days, everything, all the animals were...
Free.
Yeah.
They were free.
I mean, you never thought about what kind of chemicals they might be eating off the ground, like off the moss and stuff what they eat. You never think of stuff like that?
We never think of things like that because nobody down there, no white people that time down there.
But now that you said your eyes were open to when you started working for COPE and you start finding out about stuff like this, what do you think about maybe what the animals are eating?
Well, they're eating something that people, when they work, you fly out something. Even yourself when you drill or whatever, everything just goes all over your flora. I think that goes around too when people are working out there. I always think of that. Well, I start remembering long ago, we never used to live in town like this. We used to be out of town. We have our houses out in the land. That's where we was living all the time, out in the land all the time. That's why I didn't have school. When I got married, just like I settled down to try and raise my kids to get bigger to start doing something. And I stay home most of the time. And soon as the oldest girls start babysitting, I start going out hunting again with Frank. Because I was brought up hunting since I was a little girl. I was hunting all the time. Oh, I used to like it when I used to go out in the springtime, like in April. Sunshine, hot, snow. Just wait there for our parents to come home from out looking at traps. I really miss that. Because long ago when we used to hunt, we used to get lots, anything. Even my great-grandparents, when they used to tell stories, my granny used to tell me a story that there were so much animals in the land. They even make big stage of things that they catch, they just put them up there. They have no time to skin them. they had to go out to hunt, and soon as spring come, they start skinning their catch. That's how much they were long ago. I don't know what to think about it today. There's nothing to see. Like, well, I wasn't feeling well for a while. That's why I didn't go out for a while. Now, since I started feeling a little better again, I start going out. But just like there's nothing to see. Even there's a little lake out here. I used to see push-ups out there. I go out there to see them, walk. There's nothing this year. No push-ups.
What do you see in the future for your grandchildren and their children?
I don't know what I could see, just like there's nothing to see. Everything is gone, the things that we used to do. Now they start going with skidoo. That's a fast, and not like the days we had. We used to have dog team. Maybe that's how the animals are finishing, because the people are so fast, they get there so quick, and they're finishing. That's how people slip these days now. They got big kicker, big skidoo, they get there fast. Long ago we used to camp how many times to go to Shingle. Now we can't camp. You travel 3 hours and a half, you're there.
What kind of poisonous substances you think are they're putting into the ground, burying them?
Gee, I don't know. I never went up to see. People, some elders went up to see what they were putting down there, but me, I didn't go because they didn't invite me to go there. But after we had this meeting at Aklavik about the concern I put out, I don't know how many weeks after that, Peter Lanik, my son, went down to check where they were burying. And he said, when he come to see me, he told me, Mom, they might be okay. That's the word I got. But I didn't see it myself with my own eyes.
The department acknowledges its responsibilities to correct this environmental conditions across the north, which is a result of past operational practices. It looks forward to working with the Inuit and the Inuvialuit across the north to complete this cleanup, which will benefit the present and future generations.
We hope you enjoyed today's program. I'm your host, Marjorie Bates. Have a good evening.